Hey guys, my name is Ryan and welcome to HitScan. We're going to be talking about PTR again. It's expected to hit live this week, and with it I kind of wanted to quickly gloss over what the changes are, but mostly what these changes are going to do to the heroes involved and other heroes too. There are a lot of innocuous changes on the PTR that I don't want to talk about necessarily today, but really focus on how the tank changes affect the whole of the game and who is going to be really good off of it. In case you haven't seen a lot of our interviews and other content, winners and losers and that, this is probably a good video to get you up to speed on what to expect and generally what the community thinks about some of these changes. In a very quick time as well, starting with Arisa. You've had the biggest change, her protective barrier's health has been reduced to 600, the cooldown hasn't been affected, but she's had buffs in different areas. Her base armor has gone up from 200 to 250, the movement penalty she gets when she's firing her primary fire has been reduced from 30% to 20. Fortify now has a quicker cooldown, coming down from 10 seconds to 8, and now she moves a lot faster when firing too. It used to be that she moved 30% slower, now it's only 20%. So real quick, what does this mean for Arisa? Well, her playstyle has completely changed. She can no longer really focus on playing behind her barrier, with a higher tempo and a lot more focus on using actual physical cover to be able to protect yourself. Granted, you do have Fortify a lot more, so you are in a sense almost unkillable regardless, but the playstyle of you sort of planting behind a shield and protecting your team that way isn't really possible anymore with how quickly your barrier is now going to die. Is Arisa now going to be F tier? No, it still seems likely that she is going to be quite meta, even used as an off tank in some situations now based on how differently she plays. Arisa Sigma was very popular before, and it's certainly looking like Arisa Sigma still can be what's likely to be meta going forward, even with all of these drastic changes. I mentioned Sigma, he was the also other big change that we saw to the tanks. His barrier as well had its health reduced from 1500 to 900, but it regenerates a lot faster, and also the barrier reduces a lot slower. It used to be 150, but now it's 120 health per second that it would regenerate. But much like Arisa, the impact has been sent over to his abilities as opposed to his barrier. His kinetic grasp, his suck, has had the cooldown reduced from 13 seconds to 10, and also you get 60% of that damage back as shield instead of 40. So again, much like Arisa, the strength of the barriers has been diminished quite significantly, but Sigma and Arisa have been made stronger in their own self-mitigation. Instead of just protecting their team, which they can't really do as much now as they could before, they can still look after themselves. They're not completely open to being screwed over. We haven't seen a lot of Sigma played in the PTR pugs that pros have been playing. That's a nice Peter Pepper pickled alliteration there, but it's still safe to assume the Sigma is going to be played. His damage output is still very good, his ultimate is really strong, he still brings a lot to the table, but it does open doors to the other off tanks, but I do want to mention him later as we're still going through some of the changes. So Arisa Sigma, drastically different playstyle now to what they were before, a lot faster, less focus on the shields, but still very good. Reinhardt is also on that list of nerfs to barriers. The health on his has been reduced from 2000 to 1600, but you can move a lot faster. It used to be 50% reduced movement speed when you had your shield up, now it's 25, and the knockback resistance that you got from your passive Steadfast has been upped to 50%, meaning that you don't get knocked about as much. Whilst this change is exciting for Reinhardt players everywhere, and I can see Reinhardt being played a lot in lower tiers, it's still looking likely that Arisa is going to be the main tank at the moment, and Reinhardt's really going to struggle to come in. There were a lot of teams that did play Arisa Reinhardt in some of the pro pugs and stuff, but from the sounds of it, that's not going to be an actual strategy that many people will run, but mostly something that you can maybe try in competitive. Another big off-tank change was for Diva and her defense matrix, with the cooldown decreased from 2 seconds to 1.5, meaning that she should get it a little bit more. This is a pretty important change considering how much damage is going to be thrown around now that barriers are a lot weaker. It means that Diva might need to step up to the occasion, but speaking to pros and, you know, high tier streamers and stuff about Diva's changes, until she gets her effective range increased on her defense matrix like she had before, she's not going to be as good for that simple reason. So slowly over time, Blizzard might revert some of these changes to Diva, because while she was very strong in GOATS comp, she was very good as a third tank, not necessarily a second off tank. Unless it was in dive, but I think better options have come along with the likes of Hammond. So big change for her. We can see Diva's pick rate going up for sure, but still not where she needs to be at the moment. She might just come in as a necessary evil because of all of the damage being thrown around. The 4 seconds of defense matrix is better than Arisa's Barry at this point. In regards to other tanks, the only one really to mention now is Roadhog. With Sigma being a little bit weaker and Arisa still played, Roadhog could come back in a big way, especially with how much damage that he now does to barriers. He could be an absolute machine in making sure that he clears out enemy teams, especially with how the meta's going when it comes to shield break, and that's certainly going to be a thing in the future. Roadhog could be the number 1 off tank being used at the moment. It's going to be between him and Sigma, and I think that sort of healthy competitive side between the two that you can run either depending on what you want to do is going to be really good for the game, I think. Diva comes in as well, but she isn't as good as the other two as I just mentioned. There's only one support change. It came to Moira, but honestly it's the supports that haven't been affected that are the most prominent right now. With barriers being a lot weaker, Baptiste and Zenyatta are looking to be the absolute monster pairing in the future. Like I said, there's going to be a big emphasis on shield break, meaning that him with the damage that he could do, the buff that he recently got as we highlighted in the last video, his immortality field is pretty strong, maybe too strong in the eyes of some people, and because of how quickly he gets his ultimate, he will have that almost for every fight, so he can be very obnoxious to deal with, very strong, certainly the best support going into this new meta I feel. Zenyatta follows up. A lot of people have been saying that Zenyatta isn't very good at the moment. I would heavily disagree. I'm in the sense of wait and see, but I definitely think that Zenyatta is going to be very good based on the fact that he can actually get damage and disco orbs through all of the barriers in the game at the moment. Could he be better? Maybe. Again, it's a wait and see with how good he is, but to say that he's going to be bad going into this new meta, I think is completely wrong. And finally, Lucio wasn't changed in this, but with the tempo of the game being very fast, he still remains to be one of the better support heroes that you could maybe pick up at the moment. Maybe not as good as the last two that I just mentioned, but if you are a Lucio player, you can continue on as usual from the sounds of it. Just got to be more careful because there's less barriers to protect you. And finally, we do see some changes to the DPS. Going over these very quickly, Widowmaker's grappling hook had the cooldown increased from 10 to 12 seconds. With barriers having less uptime, it means that Widows will be able to click heads a lot more. It was a preemptive nerf because I think Blizzard expected Widowmaker to be very strong going into this meta. It would be pretty true, and it also opens the door a little bit for dive to come back in order to jump on heroes like Widowmaker at the moment. In regards to other DPS heroes, Mei and Reaper still remain to be some of the best. Doomfist 2, we did see Widowmaker preemptively nerfed. I don't understand why we didn't see Mei, Reaper or Doomfist changed in this. In fact, when it comes to Mei and Reaper, why they weren't nerfed when Goats was killed off, when Roll Q came in, when Sigma came in, and certainly with this PTR patch, I have no idea. Both of these heroes I think are far too strong. They've been buffed over time to make them stronger against tanks in a tank orientated meta. We're no longer in that. They need changing dramatically because I think it's ruining the health of the game for tanks, and it's stopping heroes like Winston and Hammond being played a lot more. Mei especially needs looking at. She's far too strong, in my opinion at least. I know some of you may disagree. Hanzo is another hero that I wanted to mention. Again, going back to a shield break meta, somewhat similar to stage 4 of the Overwatch League. Hanzo was very good at that, getting picks, remaining at a safe distance, and being able to destroy shields very quickly. So I think Hanzo is going to become the best DPS probably to play at the moment. He's much more all-encompassing, so Hanzo, Baptiste, Zen as a trio you can see a lot of going into the future. Nice quick breakdown, I suppose, of everything that's going on at the moment, but thank you very much for watching. I hope this kept you updated. Sorry about making another video about the PTR, but honestly, what else is there to talk about at the moment? It's pretty dramatic with some of the changes coming in, so I don't think it's a bad thing to necessarily highlight how important and impactful this PTR patch could be. Arisa was a problem. Blizzard dealt with it. There's some other heroes that do need a bit of a tweak here and there, but thanks for watching, take care, we'll see you next time.